Welcome everybody to Aroma Freedom Clinic. My name is Misse Gifford. I am the creator and the director of Aroma Freedom Clinic. And sitting here next to me is a very wonderful person, Merritt, who is also a practitioner at Aroma Freedom Clinic.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Thank you for coming and watching. If you have any comments, by all means, let us know. But today what we wanted to talk about is implicit memory and why are Fortune 500 companies talking about implicit memory. A lot of people don't even know what implicit memory is, right, Merritt?
It's true. I didn't know for the longest time.
Right? And most people don't know how important implicit memory is.
Very true. Impacts so many areas in our life.
You know, it really does. And the reason why Fortune 500 companies are talking about implicit memory is because they're explaining to their sales teams why they're not able to meet their goals. You know, why they try so hard, they go to all the workshops, they go to all the meetings, and no matter what they do, they can't get past that wall that seems to be in front of them. That's what implicit memory is. And I think the greatest thing is that we can share this with people at a time when not only are we sharing it, but we also have a solution on how to reconsolidate it.
Absolutely true. If any time was the perfect time, it would be right now, when so many people are going through so many changes, are struggling to learn new technologies, are struggling to find a way to make ends meet, and it just are struggling on a personal level as well. And maybe not even understanding why, when they try to step out, they just don't seem to be able to get the momentum necessary to do the things.
That's absolutely right. And that is a great point. So maybe we should go a little bit deeper. So implicit memory is any type of trauma that your body could not process, your brain couldn't process and file. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you went through a traumatic event and you weren't able to sit down and have your emotional needs met in that moment before you went to sleep, then that means that that memory is now implicit and is part of your unconscious. But what I really want to point out too is I think that when we think about trauma, we think about only the severe cases of trauma. Right. And, don't you agree that we really need to let people know what trauma really is to the brain? And trauma is just not getting your emotional needs met.
It's as simple as being, shoved aside by a parent or a friend or a loved one, anybody that's important to you. When you have an emotional need, whether it's a toddler who falls down and needs to be cuddled for a minute, or, somebody, a child that you have in school that needs that emotional connection with a parent, or even a partner who maybe experienced something that was harmful to them or hurtful to them on an emotional level, they need you to be there for them. And we're all so busy a lot of the times that we're not recognizing that these needs are not being met. And so we've all grown up with needs. We've all grown up with these implicit memories because we didn't even realize they were happening at the time. It's just part of our daily lives.
You're absolutely right. And I think that that's probably one of the greatest things that people really need to understand is that implicit memory happens from not having your emotional needs met. And you're right. It's as simple as a look that you're given from your mother gives you a look and it horrifies you and you don't get to talk about it right then and there. Or it's because I personally went through something the other day. And anyway, what I needed was empathy. That's what I needed.
And a lot of the time too, what we do, because we are brought up in a society that, we're the stiff upper lip kind of society, we're the rely on ourselves, we're very independent. We don't like to be seen as weak. So we don't ask for the help. We don't look for assistance when we have trouble with an emotion, when we have difficulty processing something. We don't usually reach out. We are taught not to do that because, it is a sign of weakness. So we stuff it. and we stuff it and we stuff it and we stuff it, and the wall gets higher and higher.
That's absolutely right. So going back to Fortune 500 companies, the reason why they're talking about implicit memory and is because how do you get past those walls? You know, I have a book coming out that's called Why You Can't Brew Your Stew.
That sounds awesome.
Right? So, you know, you put all the ingredients in the pot. You've gone to all the seminars, the workshops, you've read the books. You know, you really want to be making the 3 figures like everybody else on your team is, but you're not. And implicit memory. So you've got, you know, all your stuff in the pot, but you can't reach the stove to turn it on. And that's where implicit memory comes in. And people, you know, once you're aware of this, because we're so educated in it, we work in it, so we see it all the time in ourselves when it's happening. Right. And if you don't, then, you know, have so many stories of no matter how hard you try, it's not going to work because it's the 90% of you that's unconscious. So you don't even realize that you're being, I hate to say it, but bullied by your own consciousness that's preventing you from living your life that you want to live only because it's a part of our survival. Yeah. You know, it's a survival technique or, you know, mechanism that's built in so that if we put our hand on a hot stove, that's a traumatic memory. We don't have to think about it anymore. We're just not going to put our hand on a hot stove. And it's the same thing. So if you lost, you know, if you were bullied in school, if you have low self-esteem, if you have, you know, all these issues, like you said, that we grew up with, then all of this is what is creating our reality, our value, our worth, how much money we can make, and everything about us is coming from our unconscious. That is just amazing to me that we now know that. Because you know what, ladies, stop judging yourselves. There's no need for judgment anymore. Why can't I? What's wrong with me? Why can't I stay on this lifestyle, you know, why can't I eat right? Why can't I go to the gym? Why can't I, you know, if something happened and you've tried to, you know, another example is if you tried to lose weight over and over again and it just didn't work, that hurts you. And so there in comes that implicit memory, that ego is going to come up in there. And every time you try to go diet, it's going to be like putting your hands on the stove. No, don't do that. It hurts.
Right, exactly. Right? And it's like that with so many other things too. You know, I mean, I talk to people all the time right now, especially that are dealing with financial things. And it's the same thing. It's like, why do I spend when I don't have any money? Why can't I save anything? Why do I why do I behave this way around money? And you go back into it. And when you talk to people about it and you realize they grew up a certain way, they grew up with a scarcity, or they grew up with thinking money is the root of all evil, or, you know, all of these things that were ingrained in them as little children. They didn't even realize that these were things they were picking up from around them. And so these are all things that we grow up with, their implicit memory. So we don't know how to deal with a lot of this. And that's, you know, it's not just money, it's not just weight, it's relationships. It can be as simple as a few words, you know, and that makes a difference in how you are if you're in a corporate environment, and maybe your manager is a certain type of personality that when you were little, that type of personality hurt you. And you don't know that's why you feel that way about your manager.
Right.
You know, but it's there and you can't figure it out. You're like, I don't know, he just doesn't like me, or I just can't get along with him, or whatever. So, you know, there are a lot of things that we hold on to that impact day-to-day living, and we don't even realize it.
That's why Aroma Freedom Clinic, we can't get the word out fast enough to let people know what is really happening. Especially, one of the things I always like to let people know is because of all the fear that started last year in January. We all know what started back then. And all the fear of the unknown is still there, but we've adapted to it. So now it's in our unconscious, and our unconscious is in a war zone. Yeah. So literally in our unconscious, we are in a war. Our fight or flight is triggered. That's why so many people are drinking more. I've even heard that medications aren't working anymore for people for anxiety. Going to the gym isn't helping with depression anymore. And if you think about that, if your unconscious is in a war, and then you've got all this other implicit memory, that's why it's just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And then you're not able to go out and get your emotional needs met.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's, it's a constant battle over and over again to just be able to exist, to just do what you're supposed to do to get by during this time when we're all dealing with this whole big, thing that we're all dealing with at this point.
Yes. Yes, the war that is going on. Well, what we would like you to know here at Aroma Freedom Clinic is that the war will eventually stop, like every war does. And that's when the real fallout is going to happen. And so that's why we want everybody to know. First, we wanted you to know, why are Fortune 500 companies actually acknowledging implicit memory when most people don't even know what that is. But your Fortune 500 companies do, because they're going in and talking to their salespeople. And then they're bringing in people like us from Aroma Freedom Clinic, who have been certified by a renowned clinical excuse me, I'm not saying it right. Say it for me.
Clinical psychologist.
Yes. Dr. Ben Perkis, who came up with a miracle, I call it,
Brilliant.
which took 20 years. And it's wonderful because he starts, with Freud, and he takes you up the climb, and how that area just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And then came Dr. Ben Perkis with Aroma Freedom Techniques, which are amazing. I don't know if you've ever heard this, that, we're supposed to be these great manifestors. So ask and it's given. You've heard that. When you call something forward, it should be there right then and there. And at some level, that is really true, as long as you don't have anything blocking it. And we all do. We all have trauma. That's why I wanted people to really understand that trauma is just, it's not getting your emotional needs met. And it's also the big things.
Exactly. Like we said earlier, it could be those small things that are going on in a person's day-to-day activities where there's just a constant barrage of, bullying, like you said earlier, or a constant put downs, or constant, sidelining, or whatever we want to call that, that may happen in the corporate world. But it's also, the car accidents, it's the death of a loved one. It's, anything
Yes.
that's considered physically traumatic as well as emotionally.
Well, yeah, because we grew up in, suck it up, buttercup, and, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Let's see, what else did I hear? One of my favorites. I mean, seriously, I was raised by primates. I really was. So, there's only a 1% a difference in consciousness between primates and us. So I was raised by primates. They may have looked, but they were wearing costumes. Trust me, they were primates. Anyway, so, I got to hear things like, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about.
Oh, yes. That was a good one.
Right. And only babies cry. We didn't get our emotional needs met in any way. And so we wonder, then you spend, the rest of your life trying to make up for it. So if you grew up poor, you try to make a lot of money to cover it up. And then, we all know the stories. Then you make it to the top, and why am I still not happy?
Exactly.
And it's the implicit memory. It's all that in there.
Yeah, you have to deal with it at the root in order to be able to bloom, if you want to use that kind of an analogy with it.
Exactly, Merritt. And so I think it's wonderful that we're talking today, and we will be on every Friday talking about Aroma Freedom Clinic and what aroma freedom technique can do for you. So aroma freedom technique, Merritt, I'll say it how I see it, and then I'd love to hear how you see it. But aroma freedom technique is wonderful, number one, because you don't have to go into the drama. You don't have to go into the talk. And we're not psychiatrists. We're not diagnosing. We are not doing anything like that. We are just letting go of stuck negative emotional energy that can be trauma or not, depending on how you see it. But it's unprocessed negative emotions. And what people don't understand is it's a negative emotion. So guess who's keeping it alive? Your energy. And guess what else is happening is because it's not processed, that scene is still going on in your brain and it's still spitting out those chemicals. I mean, I've been a health and fitness guru my whole life. Everybody I tested, their cortisol levels were through the roof. I wonder why, and everybody's always trying to treat them. But implicit memory, we've got all that stress and trauma going on all the time. We're just 10% focused. And you don't know, like what happened for me, what's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I broke my neck, came out of the surgery suicidal and suicidal depression, going like a deer in the headlights. What's going on? What happened? And basically all that trauma just erupted and I was stuck in the trauma field. So aroma freedom technique allows us to identify where these memories are. And then we're actually able to biohack the amygdala, which you don't need to even know what that is. Just know that the amygdala is where, yep, it's right here. And what we do is we bring up this memory, these memories, and sometimes it's a whole constellation like stars. And by breathing specific oils that have to be of the highest grade, which we only recommend one company for that, and you can contact us if you'd like to know. And by breathing that in, it calms the amygdala. So the amygdala can't have two different energies going on at one time, and it's programmed for peace. So when you breathe in that calming oil of the highest grade, so it doesn't have any pesticides or anything in it, then it releases all that negative memories energy. It doesn't erase the memory because the memories are what make us part of our past, but it erases the energy connected to it. And then, you experience it when it's going on. You either see yourself in the memory and you see yourself melt away, or you see the memory fade away. But one thing is for certain, when you're done, you feel so alive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how would you explain it? Because you know me, I could just ramble on and on about it.
No, I mean, I think you did a really great job of explaining it, the whole technique. It's different for every person. And in my experience, what it does for me is it makes me feel so much lighter. Like you don't realize that there is a weight to the negative emotions that you carry, and you carry them, and it's like they're in your body. It's like they've become a part of your physiology. And you're carrying in your shoulders, or you're carrying, you see people and they're slouched over, or they're always sad face. They always talk so low like this. And what it's done for me is it's brought back a lot of energy that I didn't realize I was missing it. It was a gradual over time drop in my energy levels. It was a gradual depression, I'm going to say, given a lot of the things that I had been through. And one of the things that it's done for me, and I hope it's okay to share a little bit about this, but one of the things that it's done for me is it actually allowed me to release a lot of unforgiveness. And, people always say all the time, well, you just have to let it go. You have to let it go. If you're holding on to it and you don't even realize you're holding on to it, it's hard to let something go when you can't even name it, when you were so, afraid of it in that fight or flight situation. In my situation, it was freeze. It's fight, flight, or freeze, and I would freeze. And then when I felt it was safe, I would open up again and I would come out. Now, for me, this was childhood sexual trauma that I didn't remember until I was in college. I was 19, and I had a situation happen where all of it all at once came back. And I was in a situation where I couldn't share that with anybody. When I did choose somebody to share it with, they shut me right down. They didn't want to hear anything about it. And I found out later they had also experienced a similar situation and they were not ready to deal with it. So that I had some unforgiveness for them that I was holding on to, like, why wouldn't they listen to me? But going through this over and over again, as you bring it up and you don't get any resolution. So you stuff it again, and then you bring it up and you don't get any resolution. You stuff it again. And each time you're doing that, those fear chemicals are being released into your body, into your bloodstream, and they're impacting all of your organs when this happens. So being able to use the aroma freedom techniques, being able to walk through step by step and go through the process of this was so freeing for me. And it really just allowed me to say, all right, I'm not there anymore. I'm okay. Like, I could actually, my brain was relaxed. I could see, yes, this happened, but it isn't going to create that chemical imbalance anymore. It's not gonna, I'm not going to be freaking out at the mention of this situation or somebody bringing it up in conversation, because I'm not holding on to it like it's still happening. I'm able to let it go and put it in the past where it does belong.
That's wonderful. No, thank you for sharing, because I think that's really, really, really important. And honestly, it wasn't until I started doing aroma freedom techniques on myself and on my family that my childhood memories opened up. So I couldn't remember anything from 14 down for good reason. But by doing aroma freedom, and I was clearing so many other things, and I was becoming so much lighter and so much stronger. That's what you don't realize, is how much this is weighing you down, how much is affecting your self-esteem, how you view yourself. And, we have the 10% of us that we can, fool ourselves into thinking that we're this or we're that. But when that 90% isn't aligned with your 10%, that's when you crumble. And that's when you can be triggered. You're right. Somebody can, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, that is one of the things that nobody, wants to touch it. They want to act like it's a perfect little world, and it's not. And it is one of the big things that everybody wants to just shove under the carpet, and let's not talk about it. And who they're hurting most is the one that had the courage to speak up about it, and then it can be healed and you can move on. You're right, because it's the electrical charge, in these memories. That's what's causing us problems. Because I had somebody ask me one time, do we ever really escape our past? And at that time, I was going through a lot myself and trying to balance and find the right psychiatrist and all kinds of stuff. And I was questioning that myself at that point in time. But now, absolutely, you can get rid of the pain and the suffering and all those negative emotions that affect, like I said, it creates your perception of reality.
It really does. It really does. When you have, and it's like I was saying earlier about, like, with money, with finances, it can be as simple as even, for example, okay, so I have a relative who was absolutely in love with this specific outfit when they were little, and they wore it, every day, as often as they could get their mom to wash it. And what happened is that their sibling took it and wore it and got more compliments on it than they did. And therefore that outfit is never to be bought again. And there are still negative feelings about it. So this relative will never, ever wear that color or that type of outfit ever again because of that, and I'm going to say trauma because, and I put air quotes around that because to me, that wouldn't be considered anything like a trauma to me, but it was to her. It was really important to her and it was hurtful. So that's something that even that little tiny thing can impact you the rest of your life, whether or not you realize it, where somebody's going to come to you with the same outfit later on when you're older and you're going to go, I hate it. And it has nothing to do with that outfit. It has to do with your emotions, so it can be simple things like that, but it can be, really deep things as well.
Well, I think, if we were raised with a different perception, and I think this is part of our evolution, and that is, I only had two emotions really that was it, happy or not.
Yeah.
That's really it. And working, like I said, one thing I will say to people is, you're wonderful, you're amazing, and fight for your birthright, which is to be loved, adored, and cherished as the gift that you are. And I had to go through probably 17 different psychiatrists to find the one that is amazing. And what do I mean? How do you find a doctor, a dentist, anybody? They collaborate with you. They work with you. They're not talking at you. They work with you. And that's what you'll find with all the practitioners at Aroma Freedom Clinic. But I believe that, and over the years working with him, I've learned how to express and feel all these different other emotions that I have, and which changes your emotional needs. And also you begin to realize how our emotional needs are not met, and we've gotten so used to it, especially in our home life, where you just turn the cheek. You think they don't get it, whatever, right? And it's these things that I'm talking about where we have to learn a new language. That's what I really believe. We're all going to have to learn a new language, because we're going to have to say, this is what I need. And have people that are willing to do that. This is what I need to hear. I don't need you to problem solve it for me, because that's not acknowledging my emotional pain.
Right. It's validation on an emotional level. And a lot of it is going to change. Like, I think all of us are going to eventually understand the evolution that's going to happen, where we acknowledge that we have feelings. They may not be pretty. They may be really ugly feelings. And a lot of us have been brought up, especially women, have been brought up, don't be ugly. When you sass back at your mama, don't be ugly, anything like that. So it's, you have to learn to acknowledge that you are a whole human being. You were created with emotions and a body, all of it. You've got all of those things, and they all are supposed to work in this symbiotic relationship. And when you stuff emotions and you don't acknowledge emotions and you don't share and talk about and express and get those out and examine them, they are definitely going to come back and bite you later. And it's just one of those things that, I always recommend professionals to help with things like this. Like you said, it took you 14 before you got to the right doctor. And, it took me a long time too, to be able to find somebody who will validate, who will facilitate, who isn't going to try and take over control and say, you have to do it my way. Everybody is different. Everybody is going to work a different way on this, and I think that that's one of the things that I like the most about Aroma Freedom, is that it is, it's client led. It's that person that comes in and says, I have a block here. And it's up to them to create that way out of it. It's up to them to find that path. We're not going to find a path for somebody because we know our own paths. We know what's going to work for us. That person is going to have an innate knowledge of what's going to work for them. And we're going to be able to help open that up and help them get there.
That was perfect. Absolutely. I think it's wonderful. So Aroma Freedom Clinic, we want everybody to know that Aroma Freedom Clinic is one of a kind. And as the director, I interviewed over 30 practitioners, and they're all amazing. Trust me, they're all Aroma Freedom certified practitioners are amazing. But what I was looking for were women that had gone through something horrific, and they had used Aroma Freedom technique to get through it. And I'll tell you, if you talk to any of them, when you're triggered, when your trauma is triggered, your unconscious is triggered, and you just need somebody that has empathy that can support you, that's what Aroma Freedom Clinic is all about. Eventually, we will have a 24-hour support line, because when I was suicidal, I was put on hold for 45 minutes by 911. When I called the suicide crisis line, they were cold and sterile, and the first thing they said is, "How are you going to kill yourself?" And then when I went to a crisis center and waited for 45 minutes, they told me that they couldn't help me. I went to so many doctors, and none of the medications were working. I had terrible anxiety. I had insomnia. At one point, I hadn't slept in 3 months, and nobody would give me anything to, put me to sleep or anything. And I just had to keep at it and keep at it. So, Aroma Freedom Clinic practitioners have empathy, have understanding. They know what it's like to suffer, and they know what it's like to not have somebody that can really be there for you, and then be able to help you with these implicit memories that are causing so many health imbalances. That is what, one session, and I can tell you stories of people that, amazing things are happening. I'm talking miracles are happening, in just one session. And then people that you wouldn't think should be happy because, they're still 200 pounds overweight and still on 10 different medications are telling me I'm the happiest I've ever been. And when you think about it, when you start letting go of, all that heavy underwater weight, like the iceberg that Freud showed, I love that, where the 90%'s underwater. That's really what it's like. And it's pulling you down. And so when you start releasing that, I really believe that we are actually becoming more conscious. Instead of just 10%, I think we are becoming more and more when we release that, because you feel so much better, you sleep better, everything is just deeper. You know what I mean? It's just deeper. And I was trying to think the other day when I was going through this emotional needs not being met. And what does that mean? Because I haven't, maybe you can help me, Merritt, because it's kind of deep, but I'm trying to figure this out.
Okay.
But it's really deep. And it has something to do, we've been identified by our look, what car we drive, social status, all that blah, blah, blah. And the cover of the book. And so you focus so much on the cover of the book, right? Yeah. And honestly, I know this a lot because being an ex-professional bodybuilder, I wish I would have never focused on the body that much, because the body ages, things happen. It's not, and I have that mental, I'm gonna have to do a session on that. It's not ready for me. I just keep going back. Anyway, but what I was discovering is that emotions are, I hate to use the word essence because that's been misused. But I think what we're going to find is once we free up these implicit memories and we become whole, I think we're going to find that our emotions are our flavor. I think we're just going to become these really beautiful paintings. I don't know how else to say it, because like I said, we're just now opening that door and getting in there. But imagine, 100 years from now, when, children are brought into the world and their emotional needs are met because the parents' emotional needs were met. And it's just a given, like brushing your teeth.
It's not that cycle of emotional denial anymore. It's that, and I know exactly what you're saying, because, and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I can see a much, much brighter future, because imagine what it would be like when, you're out there, you'll get this. I know you'll understand what I'm going to say. Imagine when you're out there and you're driving and it's commute time and you've got people cutting you off and everything else, that reaction that you get where you're kind of like, and you might have a couple of driving fingers that you use at that point. And that's, so when you have that type of an emotion just jumping out in a situation, you have to, at least I had to stop and take a step. And I'm like, why am I like this? What happened? And then I had to kind of go back and I did a session on myself. I'm like, what is up with this? Why am I so road ragey? That doesn't sound like the person that I want to be. So it went back to when I was younger. My mom used to get into car accidents. And I say get into, she was, involved in a lot. And there were quite a few of them where I went from the back seat up to the dashboard. I didn't go through the windshield, but there's this fear. And
Oh, right.
what it would be like if, and I worked on it, so I'm good now, but, but imagine what it would be like is that when people are put in situations, instead of fear being what's triggered, imagine if it was love. Imagine if instead of that anger reaction that bubbles to the surface because we're afraid of something, a more altruistic reaction happens immediately because we're not living out of fear. We're not reacting out of that fight or flight situation anymore. We're reacting out of acceptance and love and, a place of comfort within ourselves. And I think that's kind of the future that I would like to see.
I think that you're right. That's where we're going. There's been situations when I've been in a really great place and grounded and, and I've seen somebody act out of anger and I thought only great thoughts for them, or, how's your day going? Or, I talk to them and, yeah, that is really what we're talking about, so that we're not triggered, or we're just triggered, and people don't even know when they're triggered.
Right.
But when you're triggered, excuse me, when you're triggered, you start talking really fast, and you're not even aware of what you're saying, and you're blacked out, really, because this triggered memory is coming out.
Yeah, it's an automatic response.
Mm-hmm.
It's that body's way of protecting you from something that might hurt you.
Exactly. And it happens to a lot of people, and they say, and they do a lot of things that are terrible. Sometimes it's physical, what happens, depending on the person. And then they come out on the other side and they're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? So it's really important that hopefully anybody that's watching this or has watched this, that they understand what implicit memory is, and that you can contact Aroma Freedom Clinic and we can do a session on you. You will be amazed. I'm not kidding.
Absolutely.
At how well you'll be feeling. And Aroma Freedom Clinic and the genius, Dr. Ben Perkis, he developed several techniques that we use. So there could be something, in the now that's bothering you, like you want to pull your hair out, I'm stressed out, blah, blah, blah. Or there could be a tragic memory that keeps reoccurring, or there could be someplace you want to go. Like I said, maybe you're a Young Living member and you want to rank up and you see everybody else around you ranking up and, you're not doing it. You've done everything and you're not able to, you clam up when you reach out to people, or you this or that, or you're working for a Fortune 500 company and, you're not producing like you should, and you're beating yourself up. That's going into the future. And with these simple steps we take you through that is so non-threatening, and you don't have to go into the drama, And it's quick, it's fast, it's easy, and it works every single time. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I feel like one of those commercials. I guarantee it, or your money back.
I'm like, who are you talking about here? Yeah. No, I get it. And it's not even, you know, I mean, it's everything. It's not just the, you know, it's not just the work related stuff. It's not just the, you know, it's not just the goal setting as far as, you know, we have athletes that do this, but it's finances, it's organization in your house, it's parenting, it's relationships, it's all of it. I mean, it impacts, your emotions are going to impact every single moment of your life. It's probably time that we all realize that and come to, you know, come to an accord with ourselves that says, yeah, I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to bottle it up anymore.
And so if anybody wants to book an appointment with us or work with us, please come to our website at www.aromafreedomclinic.com. We are also on Facebook under Aroma Freedom Clinic. And you can reach out to us. We would love to hear from you, take you through a session. And like I said, I guarantee that you will be satisfied with the work that you do with me or any of my practitioners, or your money back. There it is. I've said it. Because with Aroma Freedom, it's new. So we're not going to do it any justice, because no matter how much we say, until you actually feel it, because you're not going to understand it until you feel it. And when you do, I guarantee you'll be in awe, just because it's a godsend at what we can now do. You know, at the time that we're realizing that implicit memory, which is the 90% you're unconscious, you're not even aware of it now. Remember, you don't even know it's going on. It is creating your perception of reality. That means what you see, the world you live in. I know everybody lives in a little bubble right now, but it's creating your perception. It's creating your value, your worth, your health, how much money you can make, where you can live, the type of people you can hang out with, all of that. It's creating all of that. And we can literally change that in one session. It is absolutely amazing. We can tell you story after story, and maybe Merritt and I will come on here again and just share the stories, or maybe we can get those we've worked with to come on and let them share their stories themselves.
Yeah, that would be nice too. But
Wouldn't
yeah,
it?
it is. It's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. And in some cases, you know, I'm going to say, I'll put it out there. It's life-saving in a lot of cases. You know, you get to a certain point where things are just too much. And to be able to go through this and unload and let things go and be able to breathe again and just, you know, get your life back. It's really amazing.
No, you're absolutely right. To be able to actually let go of about, I don't know, 50 suitcases at a time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's about what it's like. You know, I will tell this story. You know, when I first started doing Aroma Freedom, first went to school for it, I've been, you know, a health and fitness coach my whole life. So the coaching part was very easy for me. So I decided to take my family through a group session. And so there's these questions that you ask, and they wrote them down because it was done in a group. So I didn't really know what their answers were. And anyway, so they went all the way through. We processed through. Everybody was feeling amazing. Some of the techniques that we do, you give it a number. A 10 means it's a really supercharged memory, and a 0 means nothing. It's not, you know, there's no charge there anymore, meaning you don't feel it in your body anywhere. And they all were 1 or 2, which was great. Well, my husband had been trying to get a promotion for 3 or 4 years. And he was the #1 salesperson in his company, which is a Fortune 500 company. He was selling almost double what his quota was supposed to be. year after year, year after year. And he loved working for this company. And we wanted to get in the sunshine because since I went through all that, I'm from California. I'm used to the sun. We were living in Oregon. It rains 9 months out of the year. I didn't like it. And so, like I said, he'd been trying to get this promotion for 3 or 4 years. He'd looked at going to other companies, but he really liked this job. We did that session. This is to show you how these blocks are painting your reality. We did that session on Sunday, and I kid you not, on Tuesday, he got a promotion. And when I asked him what did we work on? It was all of that, all the doubt, it all came up. Everything that was blocking him from getting a promotion, because every time it hurt him, every time he saw somebody else getting promoted, every time, there was no way it was going to happen until he released all that, and it happened instantaneously. It's just amazing. Isn't it just great?
Yep. And it's so fast. I mean, it's so fast. The energy levels, and again, we're talking about, emotions carry an energetic charge, negative, positive, just like an ion. So when you have a lot of negative emotions, what are you putting out there? You're putting out negative emotional charge. When you have positive emotions, you ever notice you always want to gravitate towards the person who's smiling and happy? That's what that difference is. It frees you up from carrying that around, and it makes an impact on everybody around you. So, and
you don't even know it, because there used to be a relative of mine that I would dread when they called me, because it was, hi. You just wanted, I was young, and I just wanted to get away from me.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing?
It was like, what are you doing? I don't know. You called me. I'd always make my energy so much bigger, trying to deflect it, because it was just like, oh, and they didn't even know it. They didn't. No, they had no idea that they were the Eeyore, and wondering why people called them whiny, didn't want to be around. Poor things. Probably thought, why doesn't anybody like me? Why isn't even?
We're coming to a place in our world now where we are recognizing this. We're realizing this. The scientific discoveries are just happening one on top of another as to how this impacts everybody's life. And I think with the Aroma Freedom Clinics, we're just going to see a real abundance of positive change. And I'm really looking forward to this.
So am I, Merritt. Thank you. So thank you for coming on today. Once again, Aroma Freedom Clinic, spread the word. We are there to help. We all work in different areas. Obviously, my role is to go out into schools and stuff and talk about suicide and the chemicals in the brain and what we can do now, and that you're not alone. And, hey, I was an ex-professional bodybuilder, cop in the military. You're not weak. I just want everybody to know you're not weak. And if you're judging yourself a lot, you're just not feeling good, give us a call, because we are all going through a lot. I know everybody's living in their own little bubbles, but really 88% increase in depression, 88% increase. And I know so many people that don't want to deal with it, but please, if I can give you any message from somebody that has been suicidal, it wasn't something I chose, and it's something that took me over. It wasn't a thought, it came at me. So I'll describe more in another time, but I'm telling you, you don't want it to go that far, because it takes years then. So listen to the signs. There's so many people now that are depressed, and they're so depressed, they don't even have the energy to get help. And I know how hard that is when you feel that way. So keep track of your neighbors. Pay attention to your friends. If they seem off in any way, talk to them, get them help. Call Aroma Freedom Clinic. we'll call them. Heck, Merritt, if they're close, we'll make a house call.
Definitely.
But seriously, pay attention to your children.
Yeah.
You know, right now there's a 58% increase in suicide in grade schoolers. I know nobody wants to hear this, but you do need to know this. This is what's going on outside of your bubble. 88% increase in depression, 58 or 56% in little children committing suicide because their emotional needs are not being met. We need to stop ignoring. We need to pay attention and face it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? If you weren't a perfect parent, get over it and get your children help. None of us were perfect parents. But you know what? Aroma Freedom can help you and it can help your children. But don't stuff it because you feel so judged because you should have been something that you didn't even know about until now we've explained it. So let your children talk to you. Let them express their emotion. Bite your tongue if you have to. And just let them talk. And really all they want is to be comforted instead of, you know, like when they were babies. It gets so complicated when they get older. I will say that. But, you know, when they were babies, you met their emotional needs. When they cried, hopefully you hugged them. It's kind of the same thing we're doing.
Just validate, but definitely, you know, if you see anything that you feel that they need professional help, please get that professional help. You know, walk side by side with them. We can pop a few links down below, just, you know, so that you guys have some resources. But, you know, it's definitely something to look into, and we really hope that it's something that you'll reach out for.
Well, thank you. We are going to close this one off. We will be on every Friday at 3 o'clock. We hope to see you again. Merritt, I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure.
And all right. Bye for now.
All right. Bye.